Okay guys, today we are going to wait till the bell's done. Then we are going to start with rounding today. So with rounding, there are two things that I say. You'll hear me say 0 through 4, add no more. And you will hear me say 5 through 9, add 1 to the line. So those are the two things you'll hear me say. And let me explain what that means. 0 through 4 is any number 0 through 4. So 0, a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4. And a 5 through 9 would be like a 5, a 6, a 7, an 8, or a 9. So I'm going to show you how I want you to round. So if you had a number like 136, and I told you to round to the nearest tens, you would underline the tens place value. So in 136, the 3 is in the tens. So I underline the tens. Then you circle the number to the right. Okay, so the number I circled is 6. That's where my focus is right now, is on that 6. And I gotta say, is that 6 a 0 through 4? Is it a 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4? Or is it a 5 through 9? A 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9? Well, you see in my 5 through 9 list, there's the 6. So what do we say when it's a 5 through a 9? We say add 1 to the line. Here is the line that I'm talking about. So I choose to add 1 to that line. And then I finish my rounding. My hundreds place stays the same, so I keep the 1. My tens place is now 3 plus 1, which is 4. And everything after the underline becomes a 0. How many numbers did I have after the underline? 1. So I change it to a 0. So when I look at the number 136, I see that it rounds to 140. Let's look at a little bit bigger number. Let's look at 12,389. I want to round that to the nearest hundreds. So I underline the hundreds place value and circle the 1 to the right. My focus is on the circled number. Is that a 0 through 4 or a 5 through 9? That's a 5 through 9. So we say 5 through 9, add 1 to the line. So I add 1 to my line. My first two numbers stay the same, so I keep a 12. 3 plus 1 is 4. And everything after the underline becomes a what? It becomes a 0. So that 8 becomes a 0 and that 9 becomes a 0. So the number I'm left with after I'm done rounding is 12,400. Now when you're rounding a decimal number, you do it exactly the same, but you just round to what they want you to round to. So if there was a decimal and it said round to the nearest hundredth, I underline the hundredths and circle the 1 to the right. That's a 5 through 9. 5 through 9, add 1 to the line. And so my 0 stays the same. My tenths stays the same. My hundredths is 8 plus 1, which is 9. And everything after the underline becomes a 0. So when I round 689 thousandths, it rounds to 690 thousandths. So rounding is very easy as long as we remember that a 0 through 4 means we add no more, and a 5 through 9 means we add 1 to the line. And I realized I didn't show y'all any with add no more. So let's do 783. I want to round that to the nearest tens, so I underline the tens and circle the 1 to the right. Is that 3 a 0 through 4 or 5 through 9? Well, it's a 0 through 4 because it's a 3. 0 through 4 means add no more, so I do an add 0. My 100 stays the same. 8 plus 0 is 8. And everything after the underline becomes a 0. So 783 will round to 700.